Ministry of Trade anticipates a shortfall in export earnings due to the impact of Tropical Storm Erica. A bill for an act to give effect to the Eastern Caribbean Asset Management Corporation to be taken up when Parliament meets Tuesday. And over 30 teachers from Ecuador studying English at Dominica State College. I am Jonathan Baptist of the Channel 5 News. Details coming up. First up, the implication for export trade earnings following Tropical Storm Erica is serious as the Ministry of Trade prepares for shortfall in the manufacturing sector. Director of Trade Mathan Walter told Channel 5 News on Monday that the largest manufacturing company on island, Dominica Coconut Products Colgate Palmolive, will not be exporting products anytime soon. Management and employees of the Belfast-based company had to engage in major cleanup of its premises because of the impact of the August 27 storm. For the most part, that has been addressed. It's their productive capacity which is at a low.
We had one particular company that is one of our largest exporters who was severely affected and will not be able to produce at least for the rest of this year. And obviously that is going to have an impact on the export of manufactured products out of Dominica and on us being able to sufficiently meet market requirements in that regard. Colgate Palmolive, DCP. The last communication that I had with them was that there was no expectation that they would be back to full productive capacity before the end of this year.
Walter says there are systems in place seeking to address the situation, and his department has been in close contact with the manufacturing and other productive sectors. As it relates to the projected loss in trade, Walter says that too is being discussed.
But we know that we need greater analysis of the information so that we can be able to say how much is it that the export sector in agriculture is going to suffer in quantitative terms, and how much it is that the manufacturing sector will suffer. But this is part of the work of the Division of Trade, for example, to put that analysis in place and make it available within the shortest period of time to the decision makers.
Parliament meets Tuesday to introduce a bill for an act to give effect to the Eastern Caribbean Asset Management Corporation, a key component of the new Banking Act.
The bill seeks to empower the Asset Management Corporation to manage banks within the currency union experiencing difficulties. Dominica passed the new Banking Act earlier this year, and Acting Prime Minister Dr. John Colin McIntyre says the action of the central bank to come in and manage the assets and liabilities of a failing bank must be covered under this act.
So this body would be able to give power to go in there, manage the assets, manage the liabilities with a hope of cleaning out the banks and putting them back into circulation in a positive manner. Because if you have these banks that are non-performing, and of course you allow them to continue to deteriorate because of non-performing loans, bad debt, and a lot of liabilities, then you cannot allow them to continue that way because they in turn will have an effect on the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank.
Prime Minister Skerry told Parliament in May that the new Banking Act would ensure that depositors' savings are secured. The new law also transfers the powers of the Minister of Finance to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. The leader of the opposition told Parliament in May that while his party supports the Banking Act, it was concerned about the impact this new law would have on the banking sector. Under the new law, the ECCB will have the power to grant and revoke banking licenses, as well as to regulate and supervise.
On the education scene, 36 Ecuadorian teachers to make Dominica their base as they study English for the next 7 months. The program in English as a second language and teaching English as a second language will be delivered at the Dominica State College. On Wednesday, the DSC held an orientation for the student teachers from Ecuador. This is part of a Teach English Caribbean program, the first of its kind here.
This is the first cooperation program with Ecuador initiated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be delivered by the Dominica State College. The Teach English Caribbean program is based on a commitment by the Ecuadorian government to send English teachers to the Caribbean to improve their English proficiency and pedagogical skills through the expansion to the Caribbean of the existing Go Teacher program in the USA. The Teach English Caribbean program will take place simultaneously at 3 partner institutions: the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College, University of the West Indies Kayville campus, and our Dominica State College.
DSC has to report to the University of the West Indies regarding performance of the student teachers.
The University of the West Indies has overall responsibility for the academic quality of the program, which consists of 3 months of ESL, English as a Second Language, 3 months of TESL, Teaching English as a Second Language, and 1 month practicum.
The Ecuadorians have been offered the opportunity to advise the DSC of the areas in which they would like to receive lectures.
Whatever you learn has to be transferred into your second semester, where you will be exposed to strategies where you can teach English to your students. So your program is in 2 parts: for yourself personally and for yourself professionally. So when you leave here, you will be effective, quality teachers of English as a second language. So you will be, we, Dominica State College, will be sending a group of teachers back to Ecuador who can teach English effectively to their students. And we want you to remember that, because you're going to be our international ambassadors. So you're going to send all the students to us.
On the legal scene, Senior Counsel Anthony Astafan has defended Prime Minister Skerrit against the opposition leader's call for the Prime Minister's resignation.
A letter by the opposition leader suggests that the Prime Minister is not fit to lead Dominica's post-Erica recovery efforts.
This leader of the opposition has penned a letter, copied it to all of the members of Parliament, the President, and has published it on the international internet to condemn and to bring to damnation the reputation of the Prime Minister in the middle of a crisis by accusing him multiple times of being part and parcel or subject to the influence of a criminal syndicate in Macau, and that this criminal influence and subjugation by or to or subservience to this criminal syndicate in Macau has compromised the Prime Minister's ability to lead the country through this recovery process. And therefore, this leader of the opposition is demanding that the Prime Minister call this advisory committee, which he has put in place as an ad hoc committee merely to assist in the recovery process. Linton is demanding that that Prime Minister call that committee that has no legal status, no legislative or constitutional status, for the purposes of resigning and allowing that committee to decide who should be the next Prime Minister of this country.
Astafan says it's unacceptable that Linton, whose sole ambition is to become Prime Minister by partisan maneuverings, is demanding the Prime Minister's resignation based on fabricated allegations. Astafan says Mr. Linton's attacks on the Prime Minister must be taken seriously. He says unlike what is suggested in Linton's letter, the FBI has no interest in the Prime Minister.
The FBI agents' 35, 37 page, 53 paragraph affidavit of detailed email exchange and evidence is a matter of public record, where there's no mention of the Prime Minister or Dominica or anything to do with us, and all had to do with maneuverings within and in relation to Antigua and so on. For him to then craft these scandalous allegations against the Prime Minister based on nothing but a picture of the Prime Minister at the United Nations Development Conference in Macau, where there were other representatives of governments and of head of states there, of over 200 people who were welcomed by an introductory or a welcome speech in writing by Mr. Ban Ki-moon. To know for a fact that the Prime Minister is not mentioned in any way in a 5-year investigation, that you indict him with the brand of a criminal and of somebody who has subjected this country's independence to the influence of a criminal syndicate in Macau, and we have to take it seriously, because Linton has made a living attacking people without response. And the 1 or 2 responses that has taken place, including that by Mr. Kieran Peanut Burns, he's lost. And that judgment from Mr. Kieran Peanut Burns in the Privy Council has set the benchmark and the line in the sand that we intend to enforce.
In more news, Minister for Public Works and Ports says the launching of Domlec's first electric vehicle embraces one of the key policies of the Labour Party government for economic growth.
Ian Pinard was addressing a launching ceremony on Friday for the first electric vehicle in Dominica by the Seoul Electricity Company. The Nissan Leaf, costing just over 100,000 EC dollars, was brought in from Barbados. Pinard says government's policy should merge environmental preservation and management with Dominica's strategy for achieving higher levels of economic growth.
This strategy speaks to the commitment to greening the economy by exploring and developing alternative renewable resources of energy, and also pledges to use the low-carbon climate resilient development strategy of 2012-2020 as the framework for the critical investments.
He said it is more crucial than ever after the challenges of rebuilding in the aftermath of Storm Erica that Dominica critically scrutinize the policy framework within which we make investments. Pinard says it is important to ensure that these frameworks support sustainability, environmental integrity, and build resilience to the effect of climate change.
I believe that Dominicans have a similar level of concern for the environment, and that too far from now, we will witness a surge of interest among Dominicans to acquire electric vehicles. This will represent a new potential growth sector, as there will be a parallel demand for recharging stations that may well exceed the number of filling stations that currently exist. The government stands ready to review the incentive now in place to stimulate the use of environmentally friendly devices and to introduce a regime of new incentives aimed at facilitating the import of electric vehicles.
Increased energy efficiency will reduce the cost of transportation and contribute significantly to the reduced cost of living. Lurian Graham Carter, Channel 5 News.
This is Channel 5 News. Coming up, your latest court news, sports, and weather. Stay with us. Welcome back. Acting Minister for Education Kelva Daru calls on parents to instill a sense of patriotism in the country's children.
Daru addressed the nation to officially open Early Childhood Development Month. He says if parents provide children with a good foundation, they will learn and become productive citizens. He urged that Dominica ensures a great start for children with flourishing daycares, preschools, and communities.
You will agree that once this is achieved, no task will be too great for our children to undertake through love of country, be it as little ones or as adults tomorrow. Being cognizant that we must instill this love from a tender age, we in the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development have ensured that there is something to constantly inform, remind, affirm, and reaffirm in our children, now and in the future, that they are special Dominican children.
He encouraged Dominicans to rebuild the country by teaching the children to care for the environment.
I speak here of properly disposing and recycling the large volume of water bottles that are being used now as a consequence of Tropical Storm Erica. Teach our children to use these bottles during their play at preschool and in their preschool gardens. Let us ensure that these little ones have their own preschool gardens, even if it means that their crops are planted in containers. Let us involve them in replenishing some of the crops that have been destroyed by Tropical Storm Erica.
Daru revealed that the ministry, with the assistance of Michael Henderson Del Sol, has created a theme song and anthem for the month titled We Are Dominica's Children. The theme for this year's Early Childhood Development Month is Rebuilding Dominica Together, beginning with early childhood development.
Dominican youth are now better informed on the justice system in the Caribbean.
This was the aim of a public education day organized by the Impact Justice Association in collaboration with the Dominica Bar Association. Improved access to justice in the Caribbean, Impact Justice, is a 5-year regional junior justice sector reform project being implemented from within the Caribbean Law Institute Center of the UWI Caville campus in Barbados.
I have to say this is the first experiment for impact justice in having an adult and a junior session simultaneously. We actually started work in September 2014, and so far we've had a number of sessions in other areas. We're drafting legislation presently, a new companies law for the region, a mediation act for the region. We're also looking at arbitration and a number of other areas.
The project's ultimate goal is to enhance access to justice, benefiting men, women, youth, and the businesses in 13 CARICOM member states.
Impact Justice has been given 19.2 million Canadian dollars to be used over 5 years for the good of the region. And according to our annual work plan, we should touch every country by March 2016. There are some activities we're focusing on, and you'll see us back here in a few months to do restorative practices for teachers. And restorative practices have been known in countries where it is well established to assist in reducing bullying and in improving communications in schools between headmasters and their teachers and between teachers and students.
Impact Justice, funded by the Government of Canada, is designed to address deficiencies in the justice sector in CARICOM outside of those that are already related to the judiciary and the courts.
On the court scene, David Seja of Portsmouth, who was given a reprieve by the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court after he was jailed for 25 years for the stabbing death of Clement Johnson James, has again been given a reduced sentence.
Justice Errol Thomas sentenced Saint-Jean to 13 years in jail in June 2015 after he pleaded guilty to manslaughter. The incident in which James was killed took place in 2010. In a statement, Saint-Jean told the court that he was walking on the Indian River Bridge in September 2010 when he observed James 53 on the opposite side of the bridge staring at him in a sexual manner. He claimed he walked across the bridge to warn the deceased when a scuffle ensued between them, and that he was just defending himself. On Monday, Saint-Jean's lawyer, Wayne Norde, told the court that Justice Thomas erred in law when he imposed the 13-year jail sentence. Instead, Norde said the judge should have used the stated benchmark of 15 years and his client should have been jailed for 10.5 years. He said the judge used the benchmark of 20 years and departed from the norm and gave no reason for doing it. The state was represented by DPP Evelyn Baptiste, who conceded on that point, but disagreed that the mitigating facts outweighed the aggravating facts, a view also shared by the judges.
A school bus flipped over in the Grand Bay area on Monday, resulting in at least 4 passengers being taken to the Princess Margaret Hospital. PRO of the Fire and Ambulance Services, Wayne Later, says the patients were first taken to the Grand Bay Health Center and later to PMH. The current condition of the individuals injured in Monday's accident remain unknown. But we understand some were treated and discharged. As far as we are aware, there were no deaths. And the National Cooperative Credit Union continues to play its role in helping build the local economy.
This was one of the aims of the recently held Calypso show. Anton Whiteferry Joseph of Grand Fond placed first, winning $15,000 in cash and prizes. In second place, Cletus Abraham Halibut won $5,000, while Bertrand Jules General Natty, who came in third, got $3,000.
What's interesting about the show is that that amount is now going to the economy, and the multiplier effect takes effect from here, you know. Okay, so if say over 70, that's going to be a multiplier effect of 3, so 3 7 is 21. So that's 210,000 that's going to the economy. Of course, plus the other services. That's just prizes, huh? You have other services, the catering, the band, the stage, you know what I'm saying? Guy who puts on the tarpaulin, the chemical toilets, and the list goes on. So when we finish here, we basically put in the economy of $350,000.
The band segment saw T Orchestra placing first and winning $8,000, while First Serenade came in second, getting $5,000, and Lucas Band third, winning $3,000. Responding to queries about having two shows, one for individuals and one for bands, the president of the NCCU says that is not feasible.
I think the band helped the show. Previously, the first year, I think the first two years, we had the individuals alone. But we think that with the band competition, it has added some value to the show. So I don't think it's wise to go back to where you're having two shows. I think it's good to have one show. And the length of the show, I haven't heard any complaint, but we will listen as time goes on, and we'll have some discussion on the radio. If we're going to throw out something to our public to see what they, going forward, what's the best fit, for the show.
Ducre was speaking at a prize-giving ceremony for participants of the NCCU Cadanslipso show over the weekend.
Your sports highlights is next with Kenny Williams.
We start off with cricket. West Indies required 103 runs with 6 wickets and 52 balls remaining when they faced Sri Lanka for their first T20 on Monday. Sri Lanka batting first scored 215 for 3 with Dilshan scoring over a half-century. West Indies batted next to gather 113 for 4. Fletcher scored over a half-century for the Windies team. Pollard claimed 2 wickets for West Indies. In some more cricket, Australia closed their first test against New Zealand to win by 208 on Monday. Following Australia's 556, New Zealand were all out for 317 in their first innings. Australia returned to the crease, scoring 264 for 4, with Burns and Warner scoring a little over 92% to their team's total. New Zealand batted next to total 294 all out. Australia led the 3-match series 1-0. Warner was declared player of the match. Still in cricket, India won by 108 runs to win their first test against South Africa on Saturday. In their first innings, India gathered 210 all out in 68 overs. Vijay and Jadeja saw a partnership of 113. South Africa replied with 184 all out from 68 overs. Batting again, India added 200 all out in 75.3 overs, with Pujara contributing 77. South Africa again replied, gathering 109 all out in 39.5 overs. India led the 4-match series 1-0. And finally in cricket, West Indies off-spinner Sunil Narine has been reported for bowling with a suspect action during their first ODI against Sri Lanka on Saturday. The match officials' report suggested concerns about the legality of Narayan's deliveries. The off-spinner will need to undergo testing on his actions in a few days and will be permitted to continue bowling until the results of his testing are known. This is Narayan's first report in an international game, although he has undergone scrutiny for his action during the IPL and the Champions League T20. On to football. Glenson Price and Lester Geese each received a special award at the Beginners Referees Seminar on the weekend. 14 participants completed the seminar, including 2 women. President of the Dominica Football Association says he was pleased with the turnout and commended the women for the bold move they had made. The DFA intends to conduct similar seminars in the area. On to fencing. The Dominica Fencing Association staged its first national championships on Saturday. The event saw local fencers competing, having fun, and awarded for their performance.
It's an under fall event. It was won by Cody Smith. Cody Morris. The silver medal was won by Khalil Alishaw, and the bronze medal was won by Rahim Sanja and Yankee. In the boys, FA, in the boys and 18 under category for the FA, it was won by Khalil Alishaw, and the silver medal was won by Cody Morris. and the bronze medals were won by Warren Lawrence and Easton Yankee. The last category was the saber, and in the boys 18 and under, the 18 and under category was won by Cody Morris. In the girls 18 and under category, it was won by Tina Smith, and girls 13 and under category was won by Ockham Charles, and the boys under 10 category was won by Jabari Charles.
Lawrence says the fencers performed well, but there is always room for improvement. The president leaves for China on the weekend to attend the World Congress and says he hopes to have another tournament in January. And finally, Cameron Carbon secured third place in the Bastia 10K road race on Saturday. The athlete came third in his category and clocked a personal best of 37 minutes and 45 seconds in his second 10K race. Chaperone of the Dominican athletes, Henry Williams, has more.
But however, one of our athletes, that is Cameron Carbon, he was able to pull through third in his category, coming in at an overall 13th position. An overall 18th position at the time of 37 minutes and 45 seconds so far. And the other athlete, which is Damian, I think he came out 30th in his category, in the seniors category, 30th overall.
And this is how we conclude our sports package. I am Kenny Williams. Join us next time.
Improvement in weather conditions can be expected by Tuesday, but a westward moving tropical wave has been located in the central tropical Atlantic. Let's get details in your weather report next.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to tonight's weather broadcast. The trough system, which has been affecting the island over the past few days, continued to affect the Lesser Antilles during the course of today. Visible satellite imagery showed just a few low-level clouds across Dominica. As a matter of fact, mostly high-level clouds were observed across the island. Meanwhile, radar imagery indicated a reduction in shower activity across most of the Lesser Antilles. Tonight's weather is expected to be partly cloudy, hazy, and breezy with a few scattered showers. By tomorrow, a high-pressure system will begin to establish itself across the area, resulting in a reduction in moisture levels and a relative improvement in conditions. Fair to partly cloudy skies, hazy and breezy conditions are expected. Sea conditions tomorrow will be moderate in open water, with waves now picking up to 8 feet. If you are venturing out to sea, please do exercise some caution. Our 72-hour projection puts the axis of a tropical wave to the west of the southern Lesser Antilles. And looking ahead, fair to partly cloudy skies, hazy and breezy conditions can be expected into Wednesday. By Thursday, instability associated with the tropical wave that I mentioned in the projection is expected to result in partly cloudy to cloudy skies with some scattered showers. And across the Lesser Antilles tomorrow, improved conditions with fair to partly cloudy skies are expected across the northern portion of the chain, while showers and thunderstorm activity are expected to continue across the southern islands. And on the international scene tomorrow, rain is expected in New York, partly cloudy skies in Miami, overcast skies in London and Beijing, with a chance of thunderstorm activity in Caracas. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:05 a.m. and will set at 5:34 p.m. For further information, visit our website at weather.gov.dm or call the weather hotline at 447-5555. Thank you for joining us this evening. Have a good night.
That's news to end the news. The headlines again. Ministry of Trade anticipates a shortfall in export earnings due to the impact of Tropical Storm Erica. A bill for an act to give effect to the Eastern Caribbean Asset Management Cooperation to be taken up when Parliament meets Tuesday, and over 30 teachers from Ecuador studying English at the Dominica State College. Email us at news@marpin2k4.com. You can also access our past newscasts on our YouTube page. On behalf of the production team, I'm Donald Baptist. Thanks for watching. Join us again tomorrow.